I want to start today with a question. And to be honest, it's a question that makes me a little uncomfortable.
Okay.
It's a question about agency, about, who is actually steering the ship?
It is the ultimate question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we wake up, we pour our coffee, we choose which shirt to wear,
Right.
we decide who to swipe right on. We walk through the world feeling like the captains of our own destiny.
Exactly. I feel like I am the one making these decisions, that
Right.
I'm the protagonist of the movie. But today we are diving into a text that it essentially says, hold on a minute.
Yeah,
You're not the captain. You might not even be the pilot. You're just the vehicle.
it is a sobering thought, a really sobering thought. We're looking at chapter 39 of our source material today, and it's titled The Sperm and Egg Solution.
Ominous.
Very. And I have to warn you and our listeners, if you are a hopeless romantic or if you place a high value on the concept of free will, this one is going to sting.
It's going to sting a lot. I read through this chapter twice, and I kept looking for the loophole. You know, the part where the author says, but don't worry, your love is magical and unique. It never came.
It never does in this text.
No. It takes the most complex, poetic parts of the human experience. Love, family, attraction, charity, and it boils them all down to cold, hard, evolutionary
Right.
mathematics.
It just strips away all the sentiment.
It asks the listener directly, and this is the central question for our deep dive today. Who is actually in charge? You or your genes?
That is the tension we are going to explore. The mission for today is to really unpack the biological arguments that are presented in this chapter.
Okay.
We're going to look at why men and women behave differently and, I mean, really look at the mechanics of it, not just the stereotypes.
Beyond the cliches.
Way beyond. We're going to look at why we form these things called families, and then finally we're going to get to a definition of love that is, well, it's unlike any greeting card I've ever read.
It's definitely not Hallmark approved. But before we get into the really heavy stuff, let's set the stage a little bit.
Good idea.
The source material actually opens with a visual. It's a simple icon, just a standing male figure.
Right. And that visual, it anchors us. It tells us that despite all the abstract evolutionary talk we're about to get into, this is about us.
It's about people.
It's about the human form. And the premise here is that while men and women have all these subtle personality differences, all of them, every single argument you've ever had with a partner, every confusing dating scenario.
Why did he do that? Or why
Right.
is she acting like that moment?
Exactly.
Mhm.
All of it stems from one fundamental biological split, one single point of divergence.
And that is the sperm and egg solution. It sounds like a mystery novel title.
It really does.
But it's actually an origin story. So let's go back, way, way back. The source takes us to a time before he and she even existed as concepts.
We have to go back to the primordial soup. I mean, we're talking billions of years ago.
Hmm.
The source points out that originally, most organisms reproduced by just splitting in half.
Asexual reproduction.
Asexual reproduction.
Yeah.
Simple cloning.
Which, if I'm being honest, sounds incredibly efficient.
So what is?
No dating apps, no heartbreak, no awkward first dates. You just copy-paste yourself. Why did nature ever move away from that? I mean, if the goal is just to make more of yourself, cloning seems like the winning strategy.
It is efficient, certainly. It's very fast, but it has one absolutely fatal flaw.
Which is?
Zero variation. If you are a perfect clone of your parent, and a parasite or a virus evolves to kill your parent,
It kills you too.
it kills you too. It kills the whole line. The entire genetic dynasty gets wiped out in one go. There's no defense. So nature needed a way to introduce variation. It needed a way to shuffle the genetic deck.
And that shuffling, that's what we call sex.
Precisely. And in this context, in
Oh.
this source, sex isn't an act, it's just gene combining.
Just swapping data.
It's taking half of my deck of cards and half of your deck of cards and mashing them together to see if the new hand is better at surviving the parasites.
Okay, so we have gene combining, but we don't have men and women yet. We just have these cells floating around swapping data packets.
You're in the single-cell realm. And this is where the source makes its first really big claim about the divergence of the sexes. It describes two distinct strategies that emerged even at that microscopic level.
How did that happen?
Well, you see, initially all these gametes, these sex cells, they were probably about the same size. The technical term is isogamy, but then a disruption happened, a mutation,
A change in strategy.
a change in strategy, and it created an arms race.
I love how the text characterizes the first group. It says on one side, you have these cells that are little, mobile, and hungry.
Exactly. Little, mobile, hungry. I mean, just think about the physics of that.
Right.
If you are small, you are metabolically cheap to produce. You can make a lot of them, millions, billions. And if you are small, you can move fast. You're nimble.
But you don't have any food reserves. You're running on empty. You're basically just a nucleus with a tail.
That's all you are. You are a delivery mechanism for DNA. You've stripped away all the baggage, all the nutrients, everything that weighs you down.
So these are the male prototype.
That is the biological definition of male.
Yeah.
It's not about muscle mass or beards or anything else. It's about the size of the gamete. The technical term is anisogamy, which means unequal marriage or unequal gametes. The male strategy is to go for speed and numbers.
A delivery mechanism. That's flattering.
Well, it's effective.
Mhm.
And they're biological imperative because they're so small and fast and dying quickly.
They don't have much time.
They're on a clock from the second they're made. So their imperative is to impregnate. They have to find a target immediately.
And the target, that's the other strategy.
The other strategy is to do the complete opposite. It's to go big. You have cells that are large, less mobile, and most importantly, they are full of nutrients.
They're hoarding resources.
They are the pantry. They have all the proteins, the lipids, the mitochondrial DNA. They are the starter kit for a new life.
The female prototype.
Correct. So the imperative there is totally different. The male imperative is to seek. The female imperative is to be the destination,
To get pregnant.
to get pregnant, to provide the sustenance for the new combination of genes.
So right out of the gate, before we even have fish or lizards or humans, we have this massive imbalance, a fundamental asymmetry. One is chasing, one is holding all the resources.
That is the baseline. The text calls it the first imbalance. And this is crucial because the source argues that everything that follows for the next 500 million years is just an elaboration on that single-cell drama.
It still feels a bit reductive, though, doesn't it? I mean, to say that my behavior at a bar on a Friday night is dictated by some single-cell organisms from a billion years ago.
It does feel reductive, but look at the metabolic costs. That's what the source is pushing us to see. It's not a philosophical argument, it's an economic argument.
Okay, let's talk about that economics then, because the source frames this almost like a stock market.
A very volatile one.
We scale up from single cells to multicellular organisms, but the market dynamics just get more and more intense.
The stakes get much higher because the cost disparity widens exponentially. We're not talking about sperm versus eggs in complex animal.
Right, I remember this from high school. Biology, sperm are small, eggs are big, but the source implies it's much more than just size. It's about value.
It is pure economics, supply and demand. The source notes that males make plentiful sperm, and that's an understatement. A healthy human male produces roughly 1,500 sperm per second.
Per second. That is an almost unbelievable amount of inventory.
It is a fire hose of genetic material and abundance. And what is the first rule of economics?
When something is abundant, it's cheap.
It has low market value. And this forces competition. If you are selling something that millions of other guys are also selling, essentially for free, you have to do something drastic to get a buyer.
You have to stand out.
You have to fight. You have to be better, stronger, faster, more clever.
And on the flip side, we have the eggs.
Eggs are rare. A human female is born with all the eggs she will ever have. She releases 1, maybe 2 a month for maybe 30 or 40 years of her life.
So what's that, like 400 total?
Maybe 400 chances at reproduction in an entire lifetime compared to the male's literally trillions of sperm.
Scarcity creates value.
Scarcity creates power. The text says, and this is a quote, "Sperm must compete for eggs, and eggs make sperm compete for them." The egg is the gatekeeper. The egg is the resource. The egg holds all the cards.
So the market dynamic is set, but here is where it gets really interesting for our personalities, for our psychology. The source argues that this biological reality shapes our behavior.
It has to.
Because sperm is cheap and abundant, the male strategy becomes indiscriminate.
It's a numbers game. As the source explains, if you are a male in this evolutionary scenario, every mating opportunity is a lottery ticket that costs you almost nothing to buy. So why wouldn't you buy every ticket you can find?
Because it's low risk. If I strike out, I've only lost a few minutes and some incredibly cheap cells.
Precisely. From a purely genetic standpoint, the downside is negligible. But the upside is potentially enormous.
It's a high-risk, high-reward scenario in the long run, though. The text points out that males have a much higher variance in reproductive success.
A much higher variance.
Yeah.
Have a higher chance of reproducing a whole lot, hitting the genetic jackpot, or never reproducing at all. 0.
That's a terrifying spread. You're either Genghis Khan, who I think the source mentions has something like 16 million male descendants alive today.
An unbelievable number.
You're either him or you're the guy who dies alone in the cave and your genetic line just ends, full stop.
Exactly. And because of that intense all-or-nothing pressure, the source argues this is what drives males to become competitive, aggressive, and it. It uses the phrase power mad.
Power mad.
You have to stand out from the millions of other competitors. Mediocrity is a death sentence for the male gene. You have to acquire status, resources, power, something to signal to the gatekeeper that your lottery ticket is the winning one.
Okay, so that's the male strategy. Contrast that with the female strategy.
Well, females have a much flatter curve of success. Most females in a given population will reproduce at least once.
But the number of offspring is limited.
Severely limited.
Yeah.
And because they have so few eggs, and each pregnancy is a massive, massive caloric investment, we're talking 9 months of gestation, then months or even years of lactation and protection.
The risk isn't, will I reproduce?
No. The risk is, will my offspring survive? And did I pick the best possible genes to combine with my precious limited egg? The stakes on each individual choice are astronomical.
So the pressure shifts from getting a mate to ensuring quality.
Yes. The text says this drives females to be choosy, safety-conscious, and parental. But, and this is a big but that causes a lot of confusion, they're also attracted to the victorious and powerful.
Because the victorious ones can provide safety and resources for the nest.
Well, partly yes. That's the long-term partner calculation.
Yeah.
But on a more primal level, it's because the victorious ones have the best genes. If a male has survived the brutal competition, if he has fought off the other males and secured resources, he has clearly demonstrated that he has good stuff in his DNA. He's a winner.
So the female is in this evolutionary bind. She's safety conscious, but she has to seek out the male who has taken the big risks and won because his genes will give her kids the best chance.
It's a paradox. She's attracted to the stability of a good provider, but also the genetic quality of the high-status risk-taker.
So we have these aggressive, risk-taking males and these choosy, safety-conscious females. And this is all just lizards and birds and mammals so far. But then we get to humans.
And we break the model.
And the source says humans screwed everything up by being too smart.
We did. We developed a unique problem. The source calls it the human complication. Our brains got too big too fast.
Why is a big brain a problem? I mean, I thought that was our superpower. That's why we're recording a deep dive and not, eating grass on the savannah.
It is our superpower, but from a biological engineering standpoint, it's a nightmare. It's an absolute disaster.
Absolutely.
The source explains that because our brains are so massive, particularly the neocortex, which handles language and planning, they can't fully develop inside the womb.
Because of the hips, right. The
Oh.
famous walking upright problem.
The obstetric dilemma. It's a brutal trade-off.
Mm.
We stood up, which narrowed the pelvic canal, and at the same time our heads got bigger. So if the baby's head grew to its full potential size inside the womb, it wouldn't fit through the pelvic opening.
The mother would die in childbirth.
The mother would die and the baby would die with her. Evolution hit a brick wall. A hard stop.
So what was the workaround? What was the solution?
Eviction. We have to be born undercooked. We get kicked out of the womb about 9 months in, but our brains are nowhere near finished.
We're born prematurely compared to almost any other mammal.
Incredibly so.
Mm.
Think about a baby horse, a foal. It drops out, it stumbles for a minute, and then it stands up and can run with the herd within a few hours.
And a human baby. A human baby can't even hold its own head up for months. You're utterly, profoundly useless.
You are biologically incompetent. You are a helpless, screaming alarm bell for predators. You can't find food. You can't regulate your own temperature. You can't move. You are a liability for years.
And this creates a massive energy crisis. A human infant is a calorie vacuum.
A black hole for resources. And the source argues that no single parent, historically speaking, in the ancestral environment could easily hunt enough food, gather enough water, and protect this helpless infant all at the same time. It's just too much.
The source calls the solution to this problem the secondary womb.
That is such a fascinating concept, isn't it?
It really is. It reframes everything.
The idea is that the nuclear family, the home, the partnership, the nest, it isn't just a social tradition we invented because we like hanging out.
Or for tax purposes.
Or for tax purposes. No. It's a biological necessity. It is a secondary womb designed to protect this incredibly fragile, slow-growing child while its brain finishes building itself outside the body.
It redefines marriage, doesn't it? It's not just, I love you, it's, I need your help to finish building this external incubator so our genes don't die.
It changes the stakes completely. The text argues that because of this big brain problem, parents have to pair bond. They have to stick together for a very, very long time to maintain that nest.
If they don't, the offspring and that incredibly expensive brain won't make it to maturity.
The investment is lost. All those calories, all those risks, gone.
But, and here is the central conflict, you're asking two very different creatures to share that nest.
Two creatures running on different software.
The source has this incredibly blunt axiom that I just have to read. It says, men don't get pregnant, women do.
It sounds so obvious, almost patronizingly so. But the implications that the source draws from that one fact are massive.
It says this simple fact creates a domino effect that explains, well, almost everything about our social lives.
Let's trace that domino effect. Men don't get pregnant means men remain mobile. They are not physically encumbered by the 9-month gestation process. They can roam.
And women get pregnant means, at least in the ancestral environment we evolved in, they become physically vulnerable.
They become stationary, especially during late pregnancy and the early years of nursing. Their mobility is severely restricted.
Which leads directly to the classic division of labor.
Right. It's a practical solution. The mobile ones become the hunters. They go out. They take the risks to bring back high-calorie packages of protein and fat. The stationary ones become the gatherers. They stay close to the safety of the nest, collecting reliable but lower-calorie resources like plants and tubers.
But the source argues this isn't just a job description. It actually wires our brains differently over millennia.
This is the really controversial part. It argues that these roles, practiced over hundreds of thousands of years, created different cognitive specialties.
This is the part that I think everyone argues about at dinner parties, the focus versus multitasking debate. I always thought this was just a cultural stereotype, like men don't ask for directions.
The source argues it's a deep neurological adaptation. Think about the cognitive requirements of the jobs.
Okay.
A hunter needs focus. Intense, single-minded focus. You are tracking an antelope for hours, maybe days. You need tunnel vision. You need to block out the wind, the flies, your own hunger, and lock onto that one single target.
If you get distracted by a cool-looking bird, you starve.
You starve? Your brain has to be a spotlight, concentrating all its energy on one point.
And the gatherer.
The gatherer needs the exact opposite. The gatherer needs multitasking. Broad peripheral awareness. You are holding the baby, so you're monitoring its breathing and its mood. You're scanning the bushes for berries, distinguishing between dozens of types of poisonous and edible leaves.
At the same time.
At the same time.
Right.
You're also listening for the snap of a twig that might be a leopard. You're monitoring the social dynamics of the other women in the group to ensure you aren't ostracized. You need a floodlight, not a spotlight.
So when I'm looking for the ketchup in the fridge, and I'm standing right in front of it, and I'm scanning back and forth, and I yell, "Honey, where's the ketchup?" And she walks in and points directly to it.
Yes.
That's not me being lazy, that's biology.
According to this source, yes. You are hunting for the ketchup with a spotlight. If the beam doesn't hit the red bottle directly, your brain doesn't register it. She is scanning the entire fridge with her peripheral floodlight. She sees the pattern of the whole fridge, and the ketchup bottle that breaks that pattern stands out immediately.
That makes me feel slightly better about my fridge blindness. But the source says this fundamental difference in wiring inevitably leads to arguments in the nest.
It has to. Of course it does. You have two different operating systems trying to run the same household. One is wired for linear focus, problem solving, and mobility. The other is wired for safety, social complexity, and multitasking. Friction isn't a bug, it's the default state.
Let's talk more about that friction, because the source describes this ongoing war of the gametes.
A war of attrition.
It's not just about who does the dishes or who finds the ketchup. It's about fundamental, deeply conflicting interests.
And it starts way before the dishes. It starts in the dating phase. It starts on that first date. Remember the economic imperatives we talked about?
Sperm is cheap, eggs are rare.
Right. So the sperm makers, as the text bluntly calls them, want to spread sperm around. Their biological push, the deep ancient whisper in their ear, is for quantity. The egg makers want the very best sperm. They need quality.
So you're on a date, you're sitting there having wine. He's thinking subconsciously, is this a chance to reproduce? Does she have the markers of fertility? And she's thinking, is this the best possible genetic match? Is he a good long-term investment?
And it goes even deeper. The text says humans who cannot get pregnant males are evolutionarily driven to look for the best receptacle for their sperm. It's a crude industrial way to put it, but that's the biological language.
What does that even mean, a best receptacle?
It means signs of youth, health, fertility, things like symmetrical features, clear skin, a certain waist-to-hip ratio, all subconscious signals that this particular body is a healthy and viable place to invest sperm.
Okay. And meanwhile, the humans who do get pregnant,
They are looking for something else entirely. They are looking for the best helper with their nest.
so signs of resources, status, generosity, kindness, willingness to commit.
Exactly. Can he provide? Will he stick around? Is he reliable? Will he protect me and the child?
They are interviewing for two completely different jobs.
Exactly. One is interviewing a vessel for a short-term deposit. The other is interviewing a long-term business partner. And the source says this is why we argue during the date. This is why there's tension and miscommunication. We are trying to align goals that are, at their root, naturally misaligned.
It creates this kind of deep cynicism about dating. Like, are we ever actually connecting as people, or are we just negotiating a genetic contract we haven't even read?
We are absolutely negotiating. And usually, we reach a stalemate, there's a push and pull, but then the text says we reconcile the imperative.
We have sex.
We have sex.
The source literally says, after we finish arguing, we have sex. It sounds like the classic make-up sex trope.
But look at the mechanism. The argument comes from the neocortex, the logical planning part of the brain, where these conflicting long-term interests reside. But the sex comes from the limbic system, from the genes, from the ancient, non-negotiable drive to mix. The genes win.
And here is the tragic comedy of biology that the source points out. Sex leads to babies.
It often does.
And what do babies lead to?
More arguing. Exponentially more arguing.
It's a vicious cycle. You argue because your interests conflict. You reconcile with sex to satisfy the genes. The sex makes a baby, and the baby creates enormous stress and demands on resources, time, and safety, which leads to even more arguing.
The perfect biological trap.
If you look at it this way, it seems like an absolute miracle the human race has survived at all. Why didn't we just kill each other in the nest and go extinct? Or just decide it wasn't worth the hassle?
Because of compromise. The source is absolutely emphatic about this. It says, our species specializes in compromise. If we didn't, the divergent interests of men and women would have ended the human story long ago. We would be extinct.
So we are genetically programmed to argue, but we are also genetically programmed to make up, to find a middle ground.
We are genetically programmed to crave compromise to a certain degree. We need the nest to work. The secondary womb cannot fail or the drone dies. So biology had to invent a powerful mechanism to keep us there, to keep us from walking away when the arguments get loud and the baby is screaming at 3 a.m.
And that mechanism is a trap.
A beautiful, intoxicating, and absolutely necessary trap.
This is where the text pivots to something I found really fascinating. It talks about the sanity of separation versus the insanity of love.
This is a point that I think a lot of people feel instinctively, but don't articulate because it sounds, sexist or intolerant.
What's the point?
The source observes that, generally speaking, humans prefer to hang out with their own sex.
It has a quote, "The same sex is always the same sex."
Think about it in your own life. When you are with your own sex, you are with people who are running on the same biological operating system.
The same software.
Right. The incentives align. The communication styles align. The humor aligns. If you're a hunter brain, you want to hang out with other hunter brains. If you're a gatherer brain, you want to hang out with other gatherer brain. It's comfortable. It feels sane.
It's the classic man cave or the girls' night out. You can relax because you don't have to constantly translate your thoughts and behaviors for a different operating system.
Exactly. So the source asks a very logical question. Why on earth would you want to spend your entire life, share your resources, and shackle yourself to the weird other sex?
Right. Why commit to a lifetime with this creature that thinks differently, communicates differently, wants different things, and eats your food?
And not only that, but this partnership inevitably leads to spending all your time with the most childish people of all, children.
Laughs. It does sound like a terrible deal when you put it that way.
It does. Sign here to live with someone you fundamentally don't understand and take care of screaming tiny people for 20 years, ruining your sleep, your freedom, and draining your bank account.
Logic would say no thanks. If it were purely a rational decision, we would stay in our same-sex groups and let the species die out.
So biology has to step in.
Yeah.
It can't rely on your logic. Your logic is too selfish and too sensible.
Yeah, it has to trick you.
It has to find a way to override that logic. The source says biology finds a way to trick you into making this insane choice.
Yeah.
And that powerful reality-distorting trick is called love.
Love is the trick.
Yeah.
That is, wow. That is deeply cynical.
Is it cynical? Or is it just the mechanism? It's not saying love isn't real. It's saying love is functional. It serves a purpose.
A biological purpose.
A critical one.
This brings us to the core of the entire episode, the selfish gene concept. The source gets really direct with the listener here. It challenges our ego in a big way.
It asks that question again. Who is in charge? You or your genes?
Most of us would say me. I'm in charge. I decided to come to the studio today. I'm choosing my words.
And the source replies, and this is a paraphrase, if you're still laboring under the delusion that you're in control, wait till you fall in love or become a parent.
And then it drops this incredible definition. Love is when your genes kick your ass.
It's such a visceral image. It's not gentle. It's not poetic. It's a hostile takeover.
It suggests that our conscious self, the part of you that likes jazz or holds political opinions or enjoys a good steak, is just a passenger, and the driver is a strand of DNA that only cares about one thing.
Replication. Getting into the next generation.
To illustrate this selfishness and how our genes drive us every single second, the source uses this oddly specific story about a mocha latte. And I want to dig into this because on the surface, it sounds like a trivial little anecdote, but the way the source analyzes it is brutal.
This anecdote is crucial to understanding the entire argument about selfishness. The narrator describes walking down the street. It's a cold day, and he sees a hungry, homeless, schizophrenic person.
A tragic sight, a clear opportunity for human compassion, a test of character.
You would think. But the narrator admits something very honest, something most of us wouldn't say out loud. He says, I could have given $1 to that guy, but instead I walked past him and spent that $1 on extra syrup in my mocha latte.
He didn't just ignore him, he actively avoided him and chose self-indulgence instead.
He avoids the non-kin, non-friend, non-cute person. And he indulges in the latte. Now, why? The source breaks down the cold biological logic. Why did he buy the latte?
Well, because lattes taste good, and he wanted a treat. It was a cold day.
But why do they taste good? Why does the human tongue provide a jolt of pleasure when it detects extra calories in the form of sugar and fat?
Because energy. We need energy to live.
Because of the Pleistocene. We evolved in a world of constant scarcity. For 99.9% of human history, starvation was the #1 threat to our survival.
Okay.
So when your tongue detects sugar and fat, the highest density energy you can find, your brain releases a flood of dopamine. It shouts, yes, get this, store this.
For a famine that will never come.
Exactly. We live in a world of caloric abundance, a Uber Eats world, but our genes are still living in the Ice Age. They are terrified of starvation. So the gene's instruction is simple. Ignore the stranger. He is a genetic competitor. He is a drain on resources. Get the calories. Save yourself. Take care of the vehicle.
So the love of the latte isn't just a trivial preference. It is deep evolutionary self-preservation.
Correct. That pleasure response is your genes rewarding you for being selfish, for taking care of the vehicle. Because if the vehicle dies, the genes die. So they bribe you with dopamine to stay fat and happy.
But then, and this is where the narrator tries to redeem himself, or so it seems, he goes to church. Surely that's an altruistic act. He's going to pray, be a good person, maybe put some money in the collection plate for charity.
The source is, well, it's extremely skeptical of this motivation. It compares going to church to a weekly investment in an IRA for retirement.
An IRA, like a 401k for your finances.
A spiritual 401k. The argument is, why do I go to church? At its most basic selfish level, it is to save my soul, to ensure my salvation in the next world.
Saving one's own ass, as the text puts it.
It contrasts this act investing 1 hour to secure your own eternal future with the act of spending that same hour nurturing orphans in this world.
Nurturing orphans' children who are not your kin doesn't help your genes get into the next generation. It's a genetic dead end for you.
And depending on your theology, if you believe in a faith over works model, it doesn't necessarily help your salvation either. So, given the choice, we choose the ritual that benefits us, either here or in the hereafter.
That is dark. It's basically saying even our holiest moments, our most spiritual acts, are just a form of self-interest in disguise. We are just trying to secure a VIP pass for the afterlife.
The source then challenges the listener directly. It says, you think you're better than me. Your brain isn't. We are all wired this way. We are at best what biologists call reciprocal altruists.
I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine.
Or I'll scratch God's back so he keeps me out of hell.
Yeah.
True, selfless altruism, giving your resources to a genetic competitor with zero expectation of any kind of reward, is biologically insane. It's a glitch.
And then there is this meta moment in the text that really tricked me out. The author says, my typing the words mocha latte with extra syrup just put you in the mood for a mocha latte.
And did it.
It kind of did, yeah.
It's demonstrating the power of suggestion and biological craving in real time. Reading those words triggers the ancient desire for sugar and fat. It probably didn't put you in the mood to go find a homeless person and give him $1.
It definitely didn't. I actually kind of want a latte right now, and I feel guilty about it.
Yeah. Don't feel guilty. Feel biological. The genes are working. The programming is running.
So we are selfish. We are calorie-hoarding, safety-seeking, self-saving machines. That's the baseline. But here's the pushback from anyone listening. We do love people. We do sacrifice.
We do.
Parents literally die for their children. Spouses care for each other through debilitating illness. Soldiers jump on grenades for their comrades. How does the source explain that if we are just fundamentally selfish survival machines?
That is the override switch.
The override switch.
The source explains that genes usually drive selfishness because that keeps the host, the vehicle, alive and healthy.
Right.
But the host is mortal. You are going to die. The genes know this.
The vehicle has an expiration date.
It does. So when the genes need to get the hell out, when they need to move from your decaying body to the next generation, they have to change the program. They have to flip a switch.
They have to hack their own system.
They do. They have to suppress the save yourself command and forcefully insert a new temporary command, save the other.
And that is love.
The source defines love as that specific moment when I care about somebody else more than myself.
And that shouldn't happen, biologically speaking. I should always care about me the most. My survival is paramount.
Unless me is a sinking ship, if you are the sinking ship, the most important thing in the world is the lifeboat.
The child is the lifeboat.
The child is the lifeboat.
Right.
The partner is the co-captain of the lifeboat. And the source says love is our most important passion, our most overwhelming emotion, precisely because it signals that the genes are moving on.
Selfish genes move on from us into the future we will never see.
That is the line that stays with me. It's haunting and also, as you said, kind of beautiful. Our profound love of self, our drive to eat the latte, to seek safety, to build our ego, ultimately exists only to serve this selfless love of reproduction and kin care.
We keep ourselves alive and healthy just long enough to pass the torch.
That's the argument.
So we are the vessel. We spend our lives polishing the vessel, fueling the vessel, protecting the vessel, just so that at the critical moment, we can launch the lifeboat and sink.
In a way, yes. It turns the entire concept of love upside down. We usually think of love as this spiritual, ethereal connection that elevates us above the animals.
Right. It's poetry and soulmates.
And the source says, no, love is a survival mechanism. It is the only force strong enough to break our inherent, deeply programmed selfishness. It is the only thing that can make a selfish ape share its banana.
It's the only thing strong enough to make us give up the latte for someone else.
Or our time. Or our resources. Or our life. It's the ultimate genetic trick.
So let's try to summarize this. What does this all mean for us day to day? We've gone from single cells bumping into each other in the primordial soup to the invention of sperm and egg to the war of the sexes in the nest and finally to this genetic ass-kicking called love.
It changes how you view your daily life, doesn't it? If you accept the premise, it really does strip away the illusion of control.
It really does. It makes me look at my relationship differently. When my partner and I argue about, directions in the car or what the plan is for the weekend.
You realize it's not just stubbornness. It's millions of years of hunter versus gatherer programming clashing. It's the single task spotlight brain trying to communicate with the multitask floodlight brain. It's the ancient sperm and egg solution trying to resolve itself in a modern supermarket.
And when I feel that powerful pull to be selfish, to just ignore the world's problems and seek comfort in calories.
That's the little mobile hungry cell or the safety-conscious instinct running its ancient script. It's the old code. It's the default setting.
But then when I look at my kids or my partner and I feel that overwhelming, almost painful sense of I would do anything for you, that feeling that defies all logic.
That is the override. That is the genes kicking your ass. That is the moment you stop being the captain and accept that you are the vessel.
Yeah.
And that your new mission is to protect the cargo.
It's so unromantic, but also there's an odd beauty to it. It connects us to this incredible 4-billion-year-old chain of life.
It connects us to every other living thing that has ever existed. We are all just vehicles for this immortal code, all trying to solve the same problem. How do we get to the future? And the answer, apparently, is to fall in love and let the genes win.
The source leaves us with a final, very provocative thought, a lingering question about free will.
It forces you to ask the really hard question. If our cravings, our attractions to power or beauty, our arguments, and even our deepest, most profound altruism are just genetic programs running a script, how much of you is actually you?
What's left over when you subtract the programming?
Is anything left over?
That is the question I want to leave our listener with today. The next time you make a romantic decision, the next time you swipe right or left, the next time you decide to buy the latte or give the dollar, ask yourself, is this me? Is this my conscious, rational self making a choice? Or is this the sperm and egg solution calling the shots from a control room I don't even have access to?
It's a question worth asking, even if the answer's a little bit scary.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. Go hug your genes. I mean, your family.
Until next time.
See you next time.